Hello friends, welcome to another episode of r/BroRevenge, where many of you come to get your daily dose of satisfaction. There are 5 stories in this one. The first is about a great friend who absolutely wrecked someone's life and reputation for what they did to his friend. The second story is about a thief who tries to blackmail the person from whom he stole. I hope you stay for these 2 stories today and subscribe for future videos. This one's titled High-Tech Revenge. There was this girl who used to be a bartender at my favorite local pub. I'll call her Nikki. I went there a lot, and we gradually became friends. Apparently, she wanted to date me at one time, but I was too oblivious to get the hints. That's a whole different story, though. She had this guy she was on and off with, whom I'll call Tim. He was 15 years older than her and a total jerk. He would do things like borrow money from her and never repay it, make constant jokes about her appearance, and get mad when she hung out with other guys, and so on. She stopped coming into work for a while, and one of the other bartenders told me that she'd injured her foot. So I decided to give her a call. It turns out she was in the hospital. I went to visit her and brought her a pizza from this place we used to go to. Over the phone, she told me that she'd stepped on a piece of glass, but I knew the moment I saw her foot that this was a lie. It was a total mess. Stitches everywhere, the whole foot and calf were bruised, and there was even a tube coming up to drain the fluids. It was brutal to look at. We talked for a while and I cheered her up a bit. I asked her to tell me what really happened, and she started crying. She told me that Tim had thrown her out onto his balcony over a stupid fight and slammed her foot into the glass sliding door. It was broken in a whole bunch of places, and she had to have screws put in to hold it together. She then confessed that he had laid his hands on her numerous times in the past and threatened to do more if she tried to leave him. This was not okay. Now, I should give you some background on myself at this point. I'm a big guy, 6 feet 7 inches tall, weighing 270 pounds, but in no way a tough guy. I've worked in programming and IT since I was in high school and was working as an information security analyst for a nationwide internet service provider at the time. I had dabbled in some harmless hacking in the past, but nothing targeted or malicious. Well, now I had a target, and I was feeling malicious. I knew where Tim lived, having dropped Nikki off there a couple of times, and I knew his Wi-Fi password used web encryption. WPA and WPA2 are now completely standard and are fairly secure, whereas WEP I can crack my way into in a matter of minutes using software. I parked near his apartment complex and connected to his network. Now, I won't go too far into the details of what I did because it involves a lot of lingo that not many would be able to follow, but I then used a grease monkey script called Cookie Injector to insert the cookies into a Firefox browser session on my laptop. This resulted in me being logged into his Facebook, email, and online poker accounts from my laptop. I logged into his Facebook account and made a post with a picture of Nikki's messed up foot with the caption, "This is what happens when I get angry." I tagged his mother, sister, boss, and a bunch of his friends and co-workers. In a matter of moments, I received notifications of people commenting on the picture, saying how horrible this was, what scum he was, and why Tim would even show this. My work was done. Now comes the part where I might have crossed the line. I had a DSLR camera at the time with a telephoto lens. I had used it to take a picture of him through his window while he was sitting at his desk playing poker before beginning my attack. I added a crosshair to the photo and centered it on his head. I then emailed it to him from his own email with the text, "The next time you hurt her or put your hands on her, I'll make you beg for your life." It sounded a lot less cringeworthy at the time. To me, this was meant to scare him a little, maybe get him in trouble with the people he cared about, nothing more. I found out a few weeks later that he'd been fired from his job, and his whole family was upset and wasn't talking to him. Nikki told me that he changed his number and wouldn't talk to her anymore. A week or so later, I heard that he'd left town, but nobody knew where he'd gone. I know what I did was probably a little too extreme, but I've got to say, I'm not the least bit sorry. I give the original poster a standing ovation for this one. I'm glad Tim was exposed to his family and friends for what a terrible person he really is. I hope Nikki's leg is fully recovered. This one's titled, "I'm Not Paying a Finder's Fee for Stolen Property. Thief Earns Himself a Felony Instead." I had just moved to a new city for work and had been working there for about 3 months, so I'm still new to the area. My apartment complex is in a nicer part of the city and is pretty well kept, so I didn't really expect anyone to go and try to break into cars. I was set to travel and had a pretty early drive, so I packed everything for my week-long trip the night before so I could just get up and get on the road the next morning. I walked out to my car and saw clothes off to the side of my car. Thinking it was weird, I started to look around. It turns out my car had been broken into and was cleaned out. They took my laptop bag, which had both my personal computer and a government computer. They also took 2 gym bags full of clothes and a backpack that had my Nintendo Switch and office supplies in it. They also took $50 out of the console where I keep change and random bills for parking. This obviously threw a wrench into my work travel, so I called my supervisor, explained the situation, and came into work. It's my fault that I left the stuff in my car, so I had to go to our security office and explain what happened, and see what the next steps were to get a new work computer. During this meeting with the physical security manager, which was 3 hours after I found my car broken into, I got a call from a local number. It turns out the guy calling had found my laptop on the side of the road while he was coming home from visiting his mom. My bag had a contact number on it. The conversation went as follows. The guy said, "Hey man, I found your laptop on the side of the road. I figured you'd want them back. They look pretty important." I replied, "For sure. I'm currently at work right now, but I can come meet you or whatever works." He responded, "Yeah man, I'm just coming back from visiting my mom, so I'm trying to get home so I can relax." I told him to text me his address and everything so I could meet him, and he said, "I'll send it to you here in a second. It's also my birthday, so if I could get some money for like a finder's fee or whatever, I think that would be cool." I responded, "I'll give him something when I get my stuff back." As soon as I got off the phone, I called the local police in that area and explained that this guy was trying to extort money from me to get my stolen goods back. They instructed me to meet him a few blocks away from his residence, and they'd send a plainclothes cop and officers to act on my behalf so I wouldn't be in direct contact with the guy. Just in case the situation got sketchy, I went and met them where they went to the residence. The guy was hesitant seeing the cop cars and took a few minutes to return the bag. They brought the bag to me to identify the laptops, and everything was still there. I accepted the bag and got my laptops and bag back. Easy enough. No more than 15 minutes later, this guy started spam texting me and losing it. He was seething through the text messages about how I could get the police involved, how he was trying to be a good Samaritan, and how he should have thrown my bag into the garbage instead. So I did the normal thing and blocked the number. Now, I was still missing everything else, including my Nintendo Switch, which was in a case with 7 games. I was originally going to take the loss on it and take it as a stupid tax since it was impossible to get back. However, something didn't sit right with me about this guy, and I thought if he had it, he was going to try to sell it quickly. I went onto Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, searching for a Switch for cheap around the same location as his house. Bingo! There was an ad that read, $200 Nintendo Switch with 7 games and case lightly used, no charger or dock, must be gone today. The location was enabled and was within 2 miles of his address. The phone number was the same, and the dock and charger were in my apartment. I had a buddy of mine who lived in the next city over contact him, asking if he could hold on to it until tomorrow since he wouldn't be in town until the next day and would pay him $300 instead. The guy agreed and also got him to read off the 7 games that were there. This was to buy us more time so I could coordinate with the police. The next morning, I got everything together to make the case to the police to assist me with this. I got the police report, the Craigslist ad, the serial number from the Nintendo Switch, and the screenshots of the text messages between him and my buddy. I made my case, and the police agreed to do the same thing as the day before and meet me somewhere else to go over what the plan was. I met them, went over to his address, and told them exactly what was missing. These were different officers than the day before, and they recognized the address and the name. We found out that this guy was known for this stuff and was currently on probation. So, we came up with a plan where my buddy would call us on his work phone so we could hear the conversation and call him on his regular phone to see what was going on. The police used a plain car to go to this meetup spot, pretended to be my buddy, scooped the guy up, and got him to cough up the rest of the stolen goods. They were able to recover all of my items, including all my clothes and bags. He ended up going to jail and earned a new felony on his record for receiving stolen property. This one's titled 75% of my pay. Okay, I'll get a new job. This story isn't about me, but about a guy I worked with 10 years ago. I guess it counts as revenge. I worked with a man who really stuck it to his ex-wife. When I met him, he was working in a sporting goods store, making $8 an hour. He wasn't like the other retail workers. He was older, well-groomed, well-spoken, and clearly educated. One night after work, he got into his car, and I couldn't help but notice it was a very nice, nearly new Jaguar. I asked him how he could afford it, and he explained. He had been a senior vice president at a well-known Fortune 50 company, which I won't name, earning $300,000 annually with bonuses and stock options. He was married, but the marriage fell apart. In the divorce, his wife demanded the house and 40% of his wages. He and his lawyer somehow managed to get her to agree to let him keep the house in exchange for 75% of his pay, with no dollar figure specified. As soon as she took the settlement, he quit his job and looked for a minimum wage job. He told me that she now gets 75% of nearly nothing since he was working a part-time job, maybe 1 or 2 times a week. He had other money stashed away so he didn't even need the job. He also had the house and its equity. There were no kids, so there was no child support, just alimony. She was furious, of course, and tried to sue him but failed at least once. When she claimed the settlement wasn't keeping her in the lifestyle she was accustomed to, he simply told the judge that the divorce was so traumatic that he could no longer do his old job. As a result, he was unable to earn what he once did. I'm not sure how it all ended, but I thought it was absolutely brilliant. He was a good employee too, great with customers, always on time, with no absenteeism or anything like that. He claimed he loved each payday because it reminded him of how little she was getting. Working 1 or 2 times a week part-time for $8 an hour isn't much money per paycheck. I hope that wife is happy with the 75% she takes from that. This one's titled, Jerk Driver Ends Up Paying for a Lot More Than a New Car. First, a little backstory. I'm a college student and cycle to campus every day. It's not a long ride, but I have to go through a zone where it's illegal to ride a bike on the sidewalk, so I'm forced to ride on the road. Most drivers don't care and just go around me since I stay to the edge and don't make myself a nuisance. I also have a low-quality electric bike that I commute on. This will be important later. A few weeks ago, a guy in a Ford SUV, I don't know exactly what kind, started yelling at me as he drove by while I was in the road-only zone. It was the usual "get off the road, roads are for cars, you're too slow" kind of stuff. I get that from drivers weekly, but I just ignore it and keep going. This man was special, though. He cut right in front of me and slammed on his brakes after yelling. I was able to stop before I hit him, and he floored it out of there, yelling, "Better be careful next time, bike!" I was pretty mad, but I hadn't gotten his license plate or anything, and I doubted anything could be done about it anyway. There was no real proof. I told one of my friends who works as an EMT the story, and he got seriously pissed off. Apparently, he's seen the results of a car successfully brake-checking a cyclist, and they aren't pretty. 2 days later, the same Ford SUV jerk tried to brake-check me again. I was expecting it as soon as I heard him yelling, so I avoided the crash again. I told my EMT friend over lunch, and he was even madder than before. I wanted to let it go since I couldn't really do anything about him, and my bicycle wouldn't win in a crash. The guy kept trying to brake-check me every few days during my morning commute, whenever we were on the same patch of road at the same time. About a week ago, my EMT friend told me he had shared the story with one of his friends in the campus police, who was equally pissed off. The two of them wanted to catch the jerk driver. The plan was to have the policeman parked on the side of the road in hopes of catching and pulling over the jerk. I heartily agreed, and the officer pulled some strings to get himself posted on duty for that stretch of road. A few days passed uneventfully with no sign of the road rager. I saw the cop parked in the same spot on the side of the road every day. Finally, I'm pedaling along, and I hear the familiar voice scream, "Get the hell off the road!" I yelled back, "Catch me then!" and took off. I was spinning my scrawny little chicken legs as hard as they would go and pegged the throttle. I guess this made the driver even madder because I heard the engine roar as he pursued me. He shifted into the left lane, and I stayed in the right. I looked to the side and saw a nasty old man in the driver's seat with the passenger window open. His mouth was moving like he was yelling, but I couldn't hear him over the wind noise. I saw the police car spot approaching and started to slow down. Taking the opportunity, the driver swung right in front of me. I don't know if it was the speed or his anger that made him swing wide, but he cut across my lane and crashed straight into the back of the police car. I barely applied my brakes and crashed into the side of his car. The officer got out, and spitting mad would be an understatement. He called an ambulance and another police car. Everyone was unhurt since the jerk was only going 25 miles an hour, but there was enough of an impact to trigger the SUV's airbags. The jerk ended up getting arrested for driving drunk, making an illegal lane change, and reckless driving. I don't know all the details, but I imagine causing a crash like that would entail some additional charges. The guy ended up having to pay for extensive repairs on the police cruiser and for a new electric bike to replace the old one he destroyed by cutting in front of me. On top of that, I hear his car was deemed totaled by his insurance company since the airbags went off, so he has to pay for a new car. Most likely he'll lose his license due to the drunk driving charges and won't be able to menace cyclists again. Road rage doesn't pay off. The guy's lucky an accident and a DUI were all he got in the end. He's fortunate the cyclist was a nice guy and didn't pull out a semi-automatic and unload on him. You never know who you're pushing to the edge. This one's titled, Pick Your Battles a Little More Carefully. Basically, I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment 2 months ago with Sarah and Jessica. Names changed. Sarah is on the lease, but Jessica, Sarah's girlfriend, isn't. I pay 50% of the rent, Sarah pays 25%, and Jessica pays 25%. It's not my ideal situation, but I was desperate for roommates at the time. Fast forward 2 months, and they are enormous slobs who never do anything, so I clean up after them all the time. I vacuum the living room, mop the kitchen, do dishes and more. I buy most of the shared groceries and household items like toilet paper, which the two of them go through quickly. Sarah has an unauthorized cat in the apartment and regularly has an unauthorized dog there too. Their rent is paid late and utilities are paid on the last possible day. Also, the girls smoke copious amounts of pot. While I don't care, I ask them to be respectful enough to air out the apartment and keep the smoke out of my room. Last week, things went south. Sarah and Jessica overheard me complaining about having to clean up after them. After ignoring me for a few days, they sent me a long text about how rude they considered me. So I let out everything that was bothering me and told them that if they didn't want to live with me, I'd gladly release them from the lease, repay their deposit, and they could go. This caused them to freak out, and they told me, "It's 2 against 1. We'll force you to move." Oh, hell no! I blocked them on all forms of social media and means of communication. The next day, I went to the apartment managers and reported the 2 unauthorized pets and the unauthorized occupant. Written notices were given, but Sarah and Jessica threw them straight into the trash. I returned from a 4-day stay at my dad's and went straight to report the unauthorized occupant, Jessica, who had already been asked to leave once, and both unauthorized pets, which were supposed to be gone by now. At this point, Sarah and Jessica were getting pissed off. Jessica screamed obscenities at me any time I entered or left my bedroom. Twice, she spent a half hour pounding on my door and the walls of my room, taunting me through the door to get me to open up. All of this was quietly recorded on my phone while I didn't say a word. Yesterday, I went back to the office to finish securing my new apartment and to report more violations. When I came home, the chain lock was locked, so I had no way to get in. This is what I'd been waiting for. Jessica taunted me again on video and then slapped the hat off my head, hitting me square in the forehead with the back of her hand. Bingo, the revenge. I called the cops, reported Sarah and Jessica for being drug users, and got all their paraphernalia confiscated. I also got a police report for battery. Come Monday, I'll be on my way to the prosecutor's office to press charges. The apartment managers will also get a copy of the report. Tomorrow is the last day to pay rent before it's late. Sarah and Jessica disappeared this morning. If they don't pay rent, I'm going to get them on the abandonment clause, finally get them evicted, and have the locks changed, all before I move out tomorrow. It's 2 against 1? Think again. All I was thinking when reading this story was that I hope the cat and dog find a good home. I couldn't care less about those 2 girls. And continue with this. Here is my thought about these stories. Story 1. High-tech revenge. I was floored by Nikki's story. Tim's abuse was horrific, and her mangled foot broke my heart. The narrator's tech-savvy revenge was brilliant, exposing Tim's cruelty on social media and scaring him with that crosshair photo. While the photo might have been a bit much, I'm not sorry he faced consequences. Losing his job and family ties was well-deserved. I'm thrilled Nikki's free of him and hope her recovery went well. This is a masterclass in using skills for justice. Story 2. I'm not paying a finder's fee for stolen property. Thief earns himself a felony instead. What a satisfying takedown. The thief thinking he could extort a finder's fee for stolen goods was bold, but the narrator's quick thinking with the police and Craigslist sleuthing was genius. Getting all the stolen items back and landing the guy a felony felt like pure karma. I love how the narrator turned a frustrating situation into a strategic win. Don't mess with someone who knows how to play the game. Story 3. 75% of my pay? Okay, I'll get a new job. This guy's move was absolutely brilliant. Outsmarting his ex-wife by quitting his high-flying job for a minimum wage gig to tank her alimony was next-level petty. I'm impressed by his cunning and how he played the legal system to his advantage. The fact that he loved his low-key job and savored every paycheck made it even sweeter. This is the kind of revenge that makes you want to high-five the guy. Story 4. Jerk driver ends up paying for a lot more than a new car. This driver's reckless brake checking was infuriating, and I was on edge reading about his repeated attempts to harm the cyclist. The narrator's teamwork with the EMT friend and campus police was perfect, leading to the guy crashing into a police car. What a poetic end! The DUI, reckless driving charges, and totaled car were well-earned consequences. I'm relieved the narrator got a new bike and justice was served. Story 5. Pick your battles a little more carefully. Sarah and Jessica's slobby, entitled behavior had me fuming. Leaving the narrator to clean up and pay for everything while breaking lease rules was unfair. The narrator's calculated response, reporting the unauthorized pets and occupant, was spot on. Recording Jessica's outburst and pressing charges for battery was the cherry on top. I hope the pets found good homes, but those two, they got what was coming. This is a masterclass in standing your ground. I hope you enjoyed these 5 revenge stories today. If you enjoyed them and aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss future episodes. I'll see you guys in the next one.